It's the 2022 NFL Draft Special with Loro and Matt. It is a SportsCenter special. We could talk about any topics and alongside the NFL Draft. And Matt, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well. How are you doing, Loro?
Doing fantastic. I mean, you got a good weekend ahead. You got your Chargers gear on, and then on Saturday you might be seeing history when you see the Dodgers and the Tigers play. Clayton Kershaw could be the all-time leader in strikeouts for the Dodgers. And before we get to the NFL draft, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on Miguel Cabrera being in the 3,000 hit club?
Well, long time coming. Congratulations to him. I can't wait to see him play on Saturday. And, that's the only person in baseball history to have 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, and a triple crown.
When you're going Saturday, you get a Kirk Gibson bobblehead.
Yeah, yep.
And he's not known as being a Dodger. He was known for that iconic home run, but he retired as a Tiger, and he's always going to be a Tigers legend.
Yeah, I also had a big home run in the 1984 World Series when the Tigers beat the Padres in 5 games.
Well, it's a long time coming for the Tigers and winning World Series here, but let's get to the NFL right here. I mean, Matt and I have our mock drafts all ready to go. We might have some surprise kind of trades here, which I have here on my mock draft at 10, which we'll get to. But anyways, let's dim the lights and talk about who's going to be picking. Let's break down who will the Jacksonville Jaguars be selecting at number 1. So I have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Evan Neal, an offensive tackle from Alabama. And I say that because I think that if you lock up Cam Robinson on the left side, and that's Trevor Lawrence's blind side, the right side has not been kind to Trevor Lawrence in his rookie season. And I think Evan Neal would be that guy to give Trevor Lawrence a clean right side.
Yeah. No, that could definitely happen. They could end up doing it. Trevor Lawrence definitely needs protection. But, I think that it'll be too tempting for them to take Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, defensive lineman.
Is that your pick for the Jaguars at number 1 to get Trayvon Walker?
Yes.
And why do you think that they would go Trayvon Walker?
I think that he's just he could be one of those generational players, and I think that you always need defensive linemen in today's game. So I think they're going to go with Trayvon Walker.
If you look at the Jaguars here, they have a lot of needs. Not only that they need offensive line help for Trevor Lawrence, their pass rush wasn't great last season. They could not even get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I could see where you're going with the Trayvon Walker pick here, and I heard reports that Trent Baalke wants that pick.
Yeah, if the GM wants it, it's probably what'll happen.
I think that we'll see what happens here. But anyways, with the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, your Detroit Lions are going to select Aiden Hutchinson, a defensive end from Michigan. So he's staying put in the state of Michigan.
I agree. I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson as well, the number 2 pick. I think he seems like a character guy that's going to fit in very well with Dan Campbell.
Especially with that defense that I think the Lions are going to build off. I mean, the defense wasn't really that bad last season by all means, but I think that adding a guy like Aiden Hutchinson would help. But last year you added Penny Sewell, who's a right tackle for Jared Goff's right side, and you think that he's proven to be a good addition to the team.
Yeah.
Penny Sewell.
Yeah.
Anyways, you might like this pick at 3. So with the third pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Houston Texans selecting Kayvon Thibodeau, a defensive end from Oregon. You know Lovie Smith. He preaches defense first. Now that he's the Texans head coach, I mean, I think that the way that now that Lovie Smith has taken over at the helm, I think that he's going to add a defensive end to bolster that pass rush for the Texans.
Yeah. I think that could only happen. I'm going to go with Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback out of LSU.
And why do you go with that pick? Is it because the Texans need secondary help?
Yeah, I think they'll want to improve that. I agree they're going to go defense. I just think they'll go corner, and I think they'll go with Stingley.
I have Stingley going somewhere in the first round, but actually, speaking of Derek Stingley, I have Derek Stingley being a New York Jet with the 4th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft because the Jets lacked in pass defense last year, and Robert Saleh loves toughness on the secondary, and I think that he would be excited to have Derek Stingley be a part of the New York Jets.
Yeah. I am going to go with Jermaine Johnson II, edge rusher out of Florida State.
And are you saying that because the Jets, even though that their defensive line wasn't the problem, that they want to add to their depth on defensive line?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see where you're going there with that. I mean, Jermaine Johnson would be a great fit for the Jets because you know how Robert Saleh loves to blitz.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like his MO there, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
And then from one New York team to another, I have the New York Giants with the 5th pick selecting Ike Owanu, an offensive tackle from NC State. They need offensive tackle help in order to protect Daniel Jones. But speaking of Daniel Jones, his 5th-year option has been declined, and we talk about a make-or-break year for Daniel Jones.
It is, which makes you think they might want to go offense to kind of help him out a little bit here. But I think that it's going to be too tempting to pick up Sauce Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati.
And are you saying that because the Giants need secondary help?
Yeah.
Or do you think that they need to go offense because now that Brian Daboll's at the helm, you got to think he's got to want to go offense first?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, and he could. I just think Sauce Gardner's sitting there. I think they'll want to take a chance on him.
I mean, to help with the secondary, I mean, the Giants need everything. They need help in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have a quarterback yet, but it's going to come in this pick coming up here. You know who I'm talking about. I have the Carolina Panthers with the 6th pick selecting Kenny Pickett, a quarterback from Pittsburgh, and I think right off the bat, he is going to come in to training camp, and I think he is going to beat out Sam Darnold for the starting job in Week 1 for the Carolina Panthers.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go offense too, but I'm going offensive line. Evan Neal out of Alabama.
And are you saying that because the Panthers need offensive line help too because of how bad that offensive line is?
Yeah, I just feel that, you can put any quarterback under center there and they're all going to look pretty bad because they don't have an offensive line. So I think they need the offensive line help.
Well, they do, but also David Tepper had some interesting comments that I want to address here. He said that he has a vote of confidence in Sam Darnold, and I'm like, why would you have a vote of confidence in Sam Darnold? He's a good quarterback, but he's not that great.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking that the Panthers are probably not going to start Sam Darnold in Week 1.
Yeah.
Just because I think Kenny Pickett is going to be their guy. But I don't know where you have Kenny Pickett going, but talk about at least four quarterbacks starting Week 1 in this draft class, because even though it's not really that good, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, with the New York Giants have the next pick at 7. This pick is from the Chicago Bears. I have them selecting George Karlaftis, a defensive end from Purdue, and I think that the Giants really need edge rushing help aside from offensive line help.
Yeah, I think I think here I'll go offensive line for the Giants and go with Charles Cross out of Mississippi State.
So you talk about getting a left tackle and a right tackle for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, well, I had the Giants taking Sauce Gardner.
Well, yeah, you got them taking Sauce Gardner with the 5th pick, but if you talk about Charles Cross, he's definitely going to play either left tackle or right tackle for the Giants.
Yeah.
Anyways, here, from one Matt to another. I mean, I'm not talking about you, Matt. With the 8th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Atlanta Falcons going a quarterback from Ole Miss, Matt Corral. And I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to be the day 1 starter for the Atlanta Falcons. I just think that they need to draft a quarterback now to solidify their future at the position now that Matt Ryan is gone to the Colts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I have the Falcons taking Malik Willis here, Atlanta native out of Liberty.
You're talking about an Atlanta native going to the Falcons. I have Malik Willis going somewhere, but he's going to drop probably in the 20s and end up being the steal of the draft. And why do you think Malik Willis is going to be a Falcon?
I think he has a lot of upside. I think that they just traded Matt Ryan away, and I think that also Arthur Smith has a reputation of developing young quarterbacks. I think that they will go with Malik Willis here.
And I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to be the starter, though. I think Malik Willis is going to beat Mariota for the starting job. Just because I think that when Matt Ryan's gone, Arthur Smith is now looking for his guy.
Yep.
Anyways, this pick has been traded to the Seattle Seahawks, and that is from the Russell Wilson deal. I have the Seattle Seahawks taking a quarterback in this draft, but it's not going to be in this round because I have the Seahawks getting Desmond Ridder in the second round, and he will be their starting quarterback over Drew Lock and Geno Smith. So with the 9th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Kenyon Green, an offensive guard from Texas A&M. You get an offensive lineman first before getting a quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go offensive line 2. I'm going to go with Ikem Ekwonu out of NC State.
So you're talking about a left tackle for either Desmond Ridder or whoever the Seattle Seahawks drafted quarterback?
Yeah. Great blocker, very athletic and strong. And I think he'll help Drew Lock there.
If it's don't get your hopes too high on Drew Lock starting for the Seattle Seahawks. I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't if I were you, because Drew Lock has the arm talent to be good, but it's his IQ is not that great.
Yeah.
But any quarterback can have the arm talent to be good, but it's about the IQ, it's about being smart, making great decisions with the football, and Drew Lock is not that guy.
All right.
Anyways, with the 10th pick, I predict that the New York Jets are going to trade Deebo Samuel from the San Francisco 49ers, and the San Francisco 49ers will receive the 10th pick from the Jets and the Seahawks. So I have a trade there. So with the 10th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting Christian Watson, a wide receiver from North Dakota State. And that has a chance to be the next Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in the National Football League, with 2 college teammates reuniting, and that's Trey Lance and Christian Watson.
All right. Yeah, I have. I could definitely see that this pick gets traded to the 49ers for Deebo Samuel. I think whether the 49ers or the Jets have it, I think they'll go with Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State.
Why is that? You're going from one Ohio State guy to another. I think that nowadays in today's NFL, you have former college teammates reuniting.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think they're just going to want someone who's probably considered the consensus overall one at wide receiver.
Yeah, but you'll still have Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, and I think that the Niners, when they moved up to trade Trey Lance, they needed another first-round pick to make up for that loss.
Yeah.
Anyways, with the 11th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select. I originally had Devin Lloyd, but I changed my mind, and I'm going Kyle Hamilton, a defensive back from Notre Dame, and I think he would be a tremendous help to that secondary.
Yeah, I'm going to go with offense here. I'm going with Drake London out of USC going to the Commanders.
I have Drake London not being a commander here, but I have him going to the team that is on your shirt, which I'm going to get to in a minute here, and we and I might be different on who our LA Chargers will be selecting at 17. So Drake London to the Commanders wouldn't be bad because McLaurin is good, but you got to get somebody opposite of him.
Yeah.
Anyways, with the 12th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting Devin Lloyd, a linebacker from Utah. I would want to pair him with Eric Hendricks and Anthony Barr, and you talk about a strong linebacking core in that you bring back the Purple Eater defense.
Yeah, I'm looking at defense on the side of the ball here too, and I'm going with Jordan Davis, defensive lineman out of Georgia.
And do you think that with Everson Griffin gone, you think the Vikings need to get younger at defensive line?
Yes.
Well, the thing with the Vikings is they're not going to go offense here because Kevin O'Connell has the offense to be good. I mean, he's going to be creative with how he's going to use Justin Jefferson, how he's going to use Dalvin Cook, and he's going to make Kirk Cousins an even efficient passer.
Yeah.
Anyways, here, this pick is the Cleveland Browns selection, but that's been traded to the Houston Texans. And with the 13th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Houston Texans selecting Garrett Wilson, a wide receiver from Ohio State. And I think that with these two first-round picks with the Houston Texans, not only that I have them getting defense, I have them getting a weapon for Davis Mills because they want to build their team, their offense, and their franchise around Davis Mills.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Texans, I'm going to go offense here. I'm going to say wide receiver Jameson Williams out of Alabama.
And you think that's the case because you know how Nick Casario has that same mindset of like Bill Belichick liking Alabama players? Nick Casario is probably going to be in that same boat too.
Yeah.
So Jameson Williams is not a bad pick at all here, but I have him going somewhere else here. So the Baltimore Ravens are on our clock here. I have the Baltimore Ravens at 14th selecting Jordan Davis from the defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. And talk about the Ravens' defensive line being an issue last year. And I think that if they want to have a much better season than they did last season, they're going to need to beef up that defensive line and not be more reliant on the offense.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens with the 14th pick. They're going to take Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, edge rusher.
I'm surprised he's dropping that low in your mock draft. To me, he's a top 3 pick, but if he drops down that low, he's going to be a steal.
Yeah, for sure.
And you talk about him with the Ravens, and you talk about him putting a little less pressure off of Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense.
Yeah.
And I think that if the Ravens get Kayvon Thibodeau, that's going to help them take it to the next level if they make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think that's something they need here. So this 15th pick, this pick's from the Miami Dolphins. And with the 15th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Ahmad Sauce Gardner. I know you have him off your board already. Defensive back from Cincinnati. I know that Howie Roseman doesn't know how to draft defensive backs, but I think that the Eagles definitely need secondary help. And I think that Howie Roseman needs to nail this pick.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go defense too. I'm going to go with defensive line. I'm going with Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia.
And do you say that because Fletcher Cox is not getting any younger?
Yeah, and Wyatt he's quick, has good hands, moves well, and he can maybe get the edge on a lot of interior offensive linemen.
That could happen. We're almost at the pick where you and I get to talk about who we have the LA Chargers selecting here. So the New Orleans Saints moved up here. This pick's from the Colts and the Eagles. With the 16th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the New Orleans Saints selecting David Ojabo, a defensive end from Michigan, and you don't expect him to play this year, but when he comes back on the field healthy, you're going to expect big things out of this kid from Michigan.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm going to have to go with Trevor Penning, offensive lineman out of Northern Iowa. I think the Saints could do a lot of things here. They could go quarterback, maybe wide receiver. But I think if Jameis Winston's their starter, they'll want protection for him coming off the ACL injury. If they end up drafting a quarterback at some point later, I think they'll still want offensive line protection. So I'm going with Trevor Penning.
That's a good pick for the Saints here just because they lost Teron Armstead to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins are definitely all in on winning this year. So, you ready for this? The LA Chargers have the 17th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Gave this a lot of thought on what they need. They did so much good work on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. And I think that with Keenan Allen not getting much younger, Mike Williams is a number 2 receiver in my eyes. I've said this. And he's a hometown kid. You already have this guy already off your board with the 17th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. I have the Los Angeles Chargers drafting a number 1 receiver for Justin Herbert, and that is Drake London out of USC, a Moore Park kid, and I predict he is staying home in LA.
All right, that could be a good pick if he ends up falling to the Chargers for sure. I had the Chargers going on the defensive side of the ball. I think Brandon Staley wants to go either defensive line or cornerback. I'm going to have him picking a cornerback, Trent McDuffie out of Washington.
So you're staying in the Pac-12, Trent McDuffie. So you're talking about if Trent McDuffie's there, you talk about him with Michael Davis, Asante Samuel Jr., Derwin James. You talk about Brandon Staley beefing up that secondary.
Yeah.
And you talk and you talk. I forgot J.C. Jackson too because J.C. Jackson's expected to be your number 1 corner.
Yeah.
So the Chargers, if they get Trent McDuffie or Drake London or any Pac-12 type of player, I think that's going to be good for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Anyways, with the 18th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting. This pick's from the New Orleans Saints, and that is DeMarvin Leal, a defensive end from Texas A&M. Like I said, the Eagles need to get faster on the defensive line of the football.
Yeah, that's a good pick for sure. I think they definitely need to do that. I'm going to go defensive side too, but I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame.
I'm surprised he's dropping low here, just because if the Eagles need defensive backs, they not only need a corner, they also need a safety that could terrorize number 1 receivers too, or terrorize tight ends.
Yep.
Anyways, with the 19th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, this pick from the Philadelphia Eagles, I have the New Orleans Saints selecting Andrew Booth Jr., defensive back from Clemson. And I think that the Saints need someone to kind of help complement Marshawn Lattimore.
All right. Here, I'm going to say New Orleans is going to pick Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh.
You think they finally find their successor to Drew Brees if they get Kenny Pickett?
Probably, because there's questions around Winston and his health. So yeah, I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett.
I think that's a reason why I think the Saints moved up in the draft to move one of their picks up in the draft to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
But this quarterback class is not really that good here, but you ready for the 20th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft? I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting. I know you already have this person to the Atlanta Falcons, but I could also see him being on the Steelers too, and that's Malik Willis, a quarterback from Liberty. I think he beats out Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph for the starting job, and you talk about him running that offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how fun will that be? I think that's going to make fans want to watch Steeler football again if they get Malik Willis.
Yeah. I'm going to go wide receiver here for Pittsburgh, Chris Olave out of Ohio State.
And is it because they could save one of their picks for a quarterback later?
They could, yeah. And Olave is just a really good, fantastic route runner. He's fast, and he can be a day 1 contributor, I think.
Oh, yeah, I could see that too, but I have Chris Olave going somewhere else here. It's going to be, he's going to fall to my team here. So, with the 21st pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have my New England Patriots selecting a number 1 receiver for Mac Jones. That is Chris Olave, a wide receiver from Ohio State. I hope it's him because the Patriots need offensive help badly, and they got Devontae Parker, which is good, but I just think that you got to get rid of N'Keal Harry, and you need to find a way. You need to get another weapon for Mac Jones, and I have a feeling that the Patriots need to use their first-round pick on a wide receiver. If not wide receiver, then they should go defense.
Yeah, I think actually they will go defense. I think they go with Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of Utah. I think he's going to fall to them, and they have needs on defense all over. I think that he reminds me a lot of Dante Hightower, and I think that Belichick's going to go with Devin Lloyd.
I would not be surprised if he went with Devin Lloyd, just because my team needs a linebacker, needs a middle linebacker especially. Kind of tell what the defense needs to do here. But knowing Belichick, and when it comes to the first round of the draft, he goes defense first. But last year he already found his next franchise quarterback in Mac Jones. But the reason why I have Olave going to the Patriots is because I want the Patriots to continue to build their offense around Mac Jones.
Yeah.
But they already did so when they got Devontae Parker, though.
Yeah.
But Parker, I just got to see if he's going to stay healthy. But if he stays healthy, you know he's a dangerous weapon on the outside.
Yep.
All right, the 22nd pick. This pick has been traded to the Green Bay Packers as part of the Davante Adams deal. With the 22nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Green Bay Packers selecting. You already have this man off your draft board. I have the Packers going defense with one of their first-round picks. I have them going Trayvon Walker, a defensive end from Georgia.
All right. I have him going offense. In fact, I have him going for wide receiver the first time in 20 years. They dropped a wide receiver. I'm going with Traylon Burks out of Arkansas.
Well, you and I are on the same page here, but I'm going to reveal my 28th pick of the draft now. I have the Green Bay Packers with the 28th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. They get Traylon Burks.
Oh, okay.
So you and I are on the same page with the Packers getting Traylon Burks. I have them getting picked with their last first-round pick, and you have them getting their first-round pick.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much on the same page on where Traylon Burks lands, but you and I both have him landing with Green Bay.
Yeah.
All right, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock now. I mean, they could go anywhere here, but I gave this a lot of thought. With the 23rd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Jamison Williams, a wide receiver from Alabama. I think that he could play all over the place. I think if you talk about the Cardinals offense, it's going to be based on outside receivers. Also, DeAndre Hopkins can play a little bit in the slot. Talk about that air raid attack. And I think that Cliff Kingsbury would like to add another receiver to complement Kyler Murray here. And even though Kyler Murray is going to hold out for a contract, you and I both think that Kyler Murray is the guy going forward for the Cardinals. But I just think that you got to give him more weapons other than A.J. Green and DeAndre Hopkins and Zach Ertz.
Yeah, it could be. I have, like you said, the Cardinals could go in a lot of different directions here. I'm going to say they go with George Karlaftis, edge rusher out of Purdue.
From your conference, from your college football conference, the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And you think that is because you think that the Cardinals need a lot of help defensively?
Yeah, I think after Chandler Jones signed with the Raiders, I think they might want to look for someone to replace him.
They do, but the reason why I have them going on offense is because I think that A.J. Green's not getting any younger, and I think that adding a guy like Jamison Williams to be a target for Kyler Murray, that could really help his confidence, and I think that it could help him overall as a quarterback.
Yeah.
And anyways, the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock here, and with the 24th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Devontae Wyatt, a defensive tackle from Georgia. I think that is a big need for the Cowboys to get help in the middle and stop the run. That was something that they did not do last year.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. I'm going to go with the Cowboys drafting Zion Johnson, offensive lineman out of Boston College. I think he can play right away for them. He'll be either guard or center, and I think they'll look to improve offensive line.
That's a need for the Cowboys, too. I mean, to help to protect Dak Prescott, help open up lanes for Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. But I know that the Dallas Cowboys, they built this team around in the draft, and I still expect big things out of the Cowboys heading into next season. Yeah. But the division is so bad that the division that they're in is so bad. Expect them to win the NFC East.
Yeah.
Anyways, I hate to say this, but you better be ready for this. With the 25th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the reigning two-time, I'm going to say this again, the two-time AFC East champion Buffalo Bills select Nakobe Dean, a linebacker from Georgia, and I think that you gotta find somebody to complement Von Miller. I know that the Bills' offense is going to be electric, but when they lost to the Chiefs in that divisional round with 13 seconds on the clock and you force overtime, I think that the Bills need to continue to bolster that defense, and I think that Nakobe Dean will be a great addition to the Buffalo Bills defense.
Yeah, I think they'll go defense too. They don't really need a lot here in the draft, so it's kind of whatever they want. But I'll go with Kyler Gordon, cornerback out of Washington.
Are you saying that because he can complement Tre'Davious White? He's just coming off an injury.
Yeah, and I think Gordon's a really good athlete out there too. So, and he can play slot or outside. So,
the Bills have been drafting well since Brandon Beane has been taking over here. But you think now that the Buffalo Bills have a challenger in the AFC East and the Miami Dolphins?
It'll be interesting to see for sure. Yeah, I think the Dolphins will be up there with them.
But you think the Buffalo Bills are still the better team because of Josh Allen? Because Josh Allen is going to be throwing the ball down the field. I mean, I could see them getting a slot receiver in the second round just because Gabriel Davis is good. Stephon Diggs is good. They just got rid of Cole Beasley. Jamison Crowder is probably not going to be the long-term slot guy. They need to get a slot guy too.
Yeah.
Anyways, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. And with the 26th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Jahan Dotson, a wide receiver from Penn State. And you talk about not only having a tremendous run game with Derrick Henry, I just think that they need to evolve the passing game more. You got Robert Woods, you got A.J. Brown, and you need to get a slot receiver to complement Ryan Tannehill, is because if in case Derrick Henry gets hurt again, then you have a passing game to go to and rely on, and that's why you need a slot receiver for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. I think they go offense as well. I think they're going to go with Kenyon Green, offensive lineman out of Texas A&M.
Are you saying that because you need more protection for Ryan Tannehill, or more, or are you talking about opening up lanes for Derrick Henry because that's who the offense is built around for the Tennessee Titans?
I think both. I think he has some flexibility to play at either right guard or left guard too.
Yeah, and plus with Derrick Henry just coming off an injury, you're probably going to have to go offensive line. That way you open up lanes for Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But the Titans, they somehow find a way to win the AFC South without him, though, and I didn't even think they would.
Yeah.
Because you need to have a healthy Derrick Henry on the field in order to do that.
Yep.
Anyways, with the 27th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady select Kaiir Elam, a defensive back from Florida, and now that with Todd Bowles at the helm as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's going to want a physical and tough secondary, and that's what Todd Bowles is going to be expecting.
All right, yeah, it could be a good pick there. I'm going to go with Logan Hall, defensive lineman out of Houston.
And why is that? Is it because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you think Todd Bowles is going to want more physicality on the defensive front?
Yeah, I mean, they have Vita Vea, but I don't know who else they have other than Vita Vea.
And then Ndamukong Suh if he stays.
If he stays, yeah.
Which I think he will, though.
Okay.
Anyways, I already said my 28th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. I have the Green Bay Packers selecting Treylon Burks. And what about you with the 28th pick in the draft of the Green Bay Packers?
I'm going to go safety Daxton Hill out of Michigan.
Well, from your rival school.
Yep.
So you think Daxton Hill could help with the secondary for the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, they need to find a way to extend Jair Alexander.
Yeah, they do.
Anyways, I'm going to tell you my back-to-back picks with the Kansas City Chiefs having first-round picks here. With the 29th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting. This pick's from the 49ers and the Dolphins. Charles Cross, an offensive tackle from Mississippi State. And with the 30th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs actually getting a weapon for Patrick Mahomes to kind of help replace Tyreek Hill, and that is David Bell, a wide receiver from Purdue.
Yeah, I agree with the wide receiver part too. So I think they'll go with defensive line with Boye Mafe out of Minnesota, and then they will go with Jahan Dotson, wide receiver out of Penn State.
I could see that David Bell being there, but if it's Jahan Dotson, talk about putting less pressure off of Mahomes, and you have Mecole Hardman still, and you got Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and you still have Travis Kelce. The Chiefs, to me, if they get a receiver here in this draft, I think they'll still be fine. Like I said, you have your doubts on the Chiefs, and you don't think that they're going to win the AFC South for whatever reason. You say, why?
Yeah.
And it's because of Tyreek Hill leaving. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. The Chiefs are still going to be a good team in the AFC West, but the AFC West is going to be a dogfight till the end.
Yeah.
And did you say your early pick was the Denver Broncos winning the division?
Yeah.
Do you think you might stick with that pick when we make our divisional picks before the season starts?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, anyways, the Cincinnati Bengals, who just played the LA Rams in the Super Bowl, are on the clock here. And I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Tyler Linderbaum, an offensive guard from Iowa, and talk about beefing up that offensive line for Joe Burrow. He cannot get hit around or get harassed by any defenders here. That's why you need to bulk up that offensive line.
Yeah. I think they're going to go with, that would make a lot of sense. But, I think they're going to be able to get Andrew Booth Jr., cornerback out of Clemson. They need help in the secondary as well. And he's a little bit injured, but they think by the middle of the summer he'll be ready to go. So I think they're going to go with defense here in the secondary.
The Bengals addressed their offensive line help in free agency. They really got some veteran pieces to help get Joe Burrow protected.
Yeah.
So, anyways, with the last pick of the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft, pick 32, this pick's from the Los Angeles Rams. I have the Detroit Lions selecting George Pickens, a wide receiver from Georgia, and you get a weapon for Jared Goff.
They could do that for sure. They also have the second pick of the second round. So they almost have two back-to-backs here. But I'm going to go with, I think they go to quarterback and take Sam Howell out of North Carolina.
Are you saying that because Sam Howell could sit behind Jared Goff for 1 year before he takes over, and you think that Sam Howell could be a developmental type project?
Yeah.
Or could you see him starting right away?
No, I think he would probably sit for a year.
Anyways, who do you think before we move on to our next subject here, who do you think is going to win this draft? Do you think that the Jets are going to win the draft with the picks they have, or do you think it's going to be the Jaguars?
Well, I think the Jets have to win the draft because they're in a tough division. They're fourth right now in that division, and they need help kind of everywhere. So I think they definitely need to win this draft.
Yeah, they definitely need to do that. But anyways, here, let's talk some hoops here. So what is your thoughts overall on the Brooklyn Nets getting swept by the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, that didn't work out for them, and they need to figure out what to do. It's
not really Steve Nash's fault, though.
No, he might want out of there, though.
I don't know if he wants out of there, but we'll see here. But anyways, you got our second round matchup has been decided. It's going to be the Bucks and the Celtics. Who do you think wins that series? I'm going to say Milwaukee in 7.
I think Milwaukee. I need to give the edge to Milwaukee, but the Celtics, their defense has been great. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics won. And of course, they're the higher seed. So.
Well, if you talk about here, the Bucks won the series over the Bulls yesterday, and then the Warriors, however, beat the Denver Nuggets. And talk about the Warriors now. They're waiting the winner of the Grizzlies and the T-Wolves series. So who will play Golden State in the second round?
I think it'll be Memphis, and I think they're going to kick Memphis's butt.
Why do you think they're going to kick Memphis's butt?
They're just too young of a team.
And people say that they're too young of a team, but Memphis could make a surprise run to the West Finals.
Yeah.
Which I would like to see. I mean, John Morant is good.
Yeah.
And then anyways, talk about today's games here. You got the Sixers and the Raptors for Game 6. Here are the questions. Will the Sixers close it out tonight, or do the Raptors force a Game 7?
I think the Sixers close it out.
I want drama here. I mean, Doc Rivers is not a good closer. I think you got to make him earn it. Yeah. I want the Raptors to force a Game 7 back in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Just because, Doc Rivers is a good coach, but he's not a good coach when it comes to crunch time and all that.
Right.
He gets out-coached and he outsmarts himself in these elimination games that the Sixers have an opportunity to close out. But the Sixers, to me, are in trouble.
Yeah.
What about the Suns and the Pelicans? Do the Pelicans force a Game 7, or do the Suns close it out?
I think the Suns close it out.
Do the Jazz force a Game 7, or do the Mavericks close it out?
I think the Jazz force a Game 7.
I'm going to say that too. I think Game 7 will be back in Dallas, and I think Dallas will win a Game 7.
Yeah,
because I think that we're going to see a Game 7 in the first round, but I think it's going to be Mavericks and Jazz for Game 7.
Yeah.
So, anyways, there's reports that Shaq might want to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers if he meets that $25 million mark. So, do you think he would be your first choice to coach the Lakers?
No, not at all. Like that, I think this sounds like just like a ploy by Shaq. I don't know. Like he has no coaching experience. It's just I couldn't see. I think this has like a 0% chance of happening.
What about bringing back Phil Jackson out of retirement?
No, that's not going to happen either. I think it's going to be probably someone like Quentin Snyder. It could also be the announcer for TNT, who used to coach the Warriors.
Are you talking? Mark Jackson's my first choice.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be Mark Jackson though. But I think it'll be Quentin Snyder.
Why do you think it'll be Quentin Snyder? What do you think he's going to bring to the Lakers if he's indeed the head coach of the Lakers?
He's a basketball savant. He will know how to, I think, use Westbrook on the team a little bit better than Vogel did. So I think those are the two big things.
What about him? What about coaching LeBron and Anthony Davis?
Yeah, I think he'll be fine coaching those two. Yeah.
Quinn Snyder used to be a Laker assistant. I would love to have Quinn Snyder as the head coach of the Lakers, just because, like you said, basketball savant, knows how to coach the defensive side of the ball. He has a great IQ on what the game of basketball is, and I think that Quinn Snyder definitely could help the Lakers get back to competing for championships every year. And I think he's done a great job in Utah, but I think Utah might be ready for a change.
Yeah, I think so.
So, what about your Detroit Pistons here? I mean, next month's the draft lottery. Do you think that you're going to spend a lot of money in free agency, or do you think you're going to probably still build through the draft and sign players to like 1 or 2 year contracts?
I think it's still built through the draft. They got one more year, I think, of doing that.
And you think that the Pistons are a year away from being a contender in the East?
Yeah.
but it's not really Dwayne Casey's fault for why they're so bad. You've said that they have played very, very hard in games down the stretch and spoiling teams.
Yeah, they have. And I think, the plan, I think, is to slowly develop through the draft. And Casey's a great coach for this. And we'll see where they are next year.
Chris Middleton is expected to miss the series versus the Celtics. I think the Celtics might have an advantage here, but talk about a big loss for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Say it again.
Chris Middleton is out for the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Yeah, that'll hurt him, but Giannis is the best player in the league right now. So it's going to come down to him and whether Boston has a game plan for him.
Do you think Devin Booker is back for the next round if the Suns beat the Pelicans?
That's a good question. I don't think he comes back right away. He could play later in the round, though. I think he'll miss at least the first couple of games, though.
Here's the thing is, if the Suns right now, they're not in a game like it's the NBA Finals. They're not playing like the Warriors. They're going to need Devin Booker for those type of games.
Yeah.
And can they figure it out? Can the Suns figure it out to win a championship and all that?
I still think they will, but obviously they need Booker. They won't do it without Devin Booker.
Chris Paul can only do so much, and he can't even do it all alone.
Right.
He's made the Suns better, though. But right. I just think that you got to get a healthy Devin Booker, though.
Right.
Yeah, so anyways, with that being said, let's talk a little baseball here. Besides when you talked about Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit, the Detroit Tigers, however, took 2 out of 3 from the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, they did. Yep.
So the Tigers right now, they're playing live in Minnesota. They lost the first 2 games of the series. Tell us your thoughts on when Robbie Grossman dropped that ball.
Yeah, that was a tough one for sure. That shouldn't have happened, and it cost the Tigers a win.
Well, we have a game update for you. The Twins are up 7-1 over the Detroit Tigers, and the Detroit Tigers are 6-11. And that's a team that you had winning the American League Central, and it's not looking good right now for the Tigers.
No, they're stinking it up.
And do you still think that they can turn it around though?
Oh yeah, it's still April. White Sox lost 8 in a row. So
yeah. And so, the American League Central has proven to me that it's so far been a bad division.
Yeah.
I picked the White Sox to win that division, but don't be surprised about the Tigers starting to heat up at the right time. But we'll talk about here. They play the Dodgers this weekend, and you see Clayton Kershaw on Saturday. You get to see Tyler Anderson starts tomorrow, and Tyler Alexander for the Detroit Tigers. On Saturday, it'll be Clayton Kershaw on the mound, and you will see Bo Brisky, the 24-year-old right-hander for the Tigers.
Okay.
So are you expecting to see history from Clayton Kershaw on Saturday for him to pass Don Sutton on the Dodgers all-time strikeout list?
I hope so. It'd be great.
Where are your seats for Saturday's game?
Behind home plate, but in the upper deck, but the first row of the upper deck.
Top deck?
Yeah.
So you said you can't wait to see Miguel Cabrera play. Who else are you excited to see play when you go to Dodger Stadium against the Detroit Tigers?
I think hopefully Baez. I think Spencer Torkelson.
Torkelson has been off to
really good too.
Yeah, you're probably gonna be expecting this. Do you think AJ Hinch is gonna get booed by Dodger fans?
Oh yeah, he might. Yeah, he might.
Because of the sign stealing thing with the Astros. Are you kind of excited to see him get booed by the Dodgers fans?
That'll be funny.
And heckle him?
Yeah, that'll be funny.
AJ Hinch is a good manager, but I just felt like the Astros should have not fired him. But hey, he's in a good place in Detroit.
Right, yeah.
And you said that the Tigers have a 5-year plan with AJ Hinch and a long-term plan with AJ Hinch in building the Tigers back to promise and back to contending for championships.
Yeah.
But is it going to be this year though?
Right, yeah.
Or no, because they still need time.
They won't compete for a championship this year, but they'll make a good run, I think.
I think they will too, but they had a good offseason, but it takes time. But then on Sunday, you're not going to be at that game. It's going to be Walker Buehler and Eduardo Rodriguez on Sunday.
All
So you
right.
think the Tigers get swept by the Dodgers?
Nope. I think they win at least one game.
Who do you think that one game would be? Would it be against Clayton Kershaw, or will it be tomorrow night against Tyler Anderson?
I think tomorrow night.
Why do you think it'll be tomorrow night?
I think it'll just be a better lineup and better pitching.
Well, I mean, Tyler Anderson's good, but I mean,
Yeah.
but the Tigers are going to see Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler on Saturday and Sunday, and I don't think they're going to have a good time facing those two.
No.
So, and then the Dodgers after that, they play the Giants. But is it an overreaction for you that the Dodgers lost a 3-game series to the Arizona Diamondbacks?
Yeah, it's an overreaction. It's still April.
So you think it's an overreaction, not a reaction?
Yeah, it's an overreaction.
Yeah, you know the Diamondbacks are not going to be that great. I mean, they're probably going to still be one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah.
But the worst team right now is the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Except for the Cubs and the Pirates. The Pirates have been surprisingly better.
Uh-huh.
And then talk about the Miami Marlins surprise. 9-8. Is that your biggest surprise in baseball so far?
Yeah, they're a big surprise.
Or what about the biggest disappointment to me is the Texas Rangers?
Yeah, they're up there for sure.
Because the Rangers had all this money to spend. They spent a lot of money on Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, but they're not performing.
Yeah.
Anyways, Matt, let's talk some hockey playoffs here. So Detroit is done. The Kings have clinched a playoff spot. They have one more game against the Vancouver Canucks. The Kings will be playing the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. Do you think the Kings win that series over the Edmonton Oilers?
I think they do.
How many games do you think they will win?
I think they'll win the series against them, and then that'll probably be it for the Kings.
Well, the Kings will probably have to play the Calgary Flames in the second round.
Yeah, they'll probably lose to them.
Why do you think they'll probably lose to the Calgary Flames?
I think Calgary's just too good of a team, I think.
Well, and then you talk about the Avalanche, 56-18. They got 118 points. The Minnesota Wild has been good, 51-22-7. The Blues are now back in the playoffs. Then you got the Preds and the Stars now back in. The Vegas Golden Knights, for the first time in team history, they're going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, tough finish for them.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good record, though, but they didn't have enough points.
Right.
What about your Red Wings? Now that your season's over, what is next for the Detroit Red Wings?
Continue to follow the plan. That's all you got to do. Draft well, follow the plan, develop their guys, and they'll be coming on pretty good here.
They have one more game on Friday, and that is against the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
So you want a strong finish here to the season?
Yeah.
So is Jeff Bashill on the hot seat?
They'll keep him for another year, I think.
Or does Steve Yzerman going to want to change in head coach?
They're going to keep him because, they're going to be the same team they were next year as they are this year. They'll get better, but they're not going to be bringing in a bunch of free agents and things like that.
Is it because they're still rebuilding?
Yeah.
Anyways, Matt, enjoy the draft and all that. We'll talk to you next week and recap it all. And then we got the schedule for football that we're going to be breaking down very, very soon.
Okay. Glad to see you, Loro. Bye-bye.